Hey, this is the video for 5.4, Impact of Agricultural Practices. So go ahead and check out the overview and set up your guided notes. So before we can get the field ready for crops, we actually have to prepare the field. And one method that has been done in the past is slash and burn. And that is a technique of deforestation to clear areas. Like basically you cut down everything and then you burn what you cut down. That way you're returning the nutrients back into the soil. This will increase the amount of arable land. It is deforestation and it is biodiversity loss, but you're still getting more land that is farmable. However, it will lead to soil degradation because those nutrients are very easily picked up by the plants that you plant after that. And those nutrients, because you're harvesting the crops, are not going to be returned to the soil. Can also contribute to climate change. The carbon dioxide that's added from burning what is left behind, but also you're not going to be sequestering any carbon. So with slash and burn, you're taking non-arable land and you're making more land available. This can lead to an increase in carbon dioxide because you're taking away this carbon sink, or you're adding more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. That can lead to biodiversity loss because carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and it contributes to climate change. And you're also degrading the soil because you're removing the same nutrients from the soil. And that is a form of habitat destruction, which does lead to biodiversity loss. You're destroying the habitat that is found in the soil for microorganisms that may live there. Another method we need to prepare the soil is tilling, and tilling is when you're basically breaking up the soil from mechanical methods, either using a tractor with all of these blades behind it, which breaks up the soil, or using a hoe, doing it manually by hand. So this will help to increase profits because you're loosening up the soil that may have been compacted from the last year. But again, you're leading to soil degradation. You're definitely going to increase the erosion because you're making soil loose and it can be susceptible to wind and water erosion. And you're also going to require more fertilizer because when you break up the soil, you're breaking up the roots. There may be some plants, microorganisms, some fungi that are living in the soil that you are killing, and they may not be helping cycle the nutrients properly. So when you are tilling, you have compact soil. So in order to get the compact soil, what you got to do is you got to break it up to increase aeration and also porosity. And you may have previous crops that are going to be, that you're adding the carbon back into the soil. So that is actually a good thing. But you're going to increase the germination because you're loosening up the topsoil. You're allowing the seeds, the roots to penetrate the soil and the root to get down embedded into the soil. That can increase profits because it's more efficient. Can also require more fertilizer because you are leaching out nutrients that were previously in the soil. So when you have broken up soil and it rains, some of those water-soluble nutrients may go deeper down into the lower horizons. And that can lead to biodiversity loss, this increased fertilizer use, because remember, anytime there is runoff, can lead to eutrophication and lead to hypoxia. And hypoxia is just a reduction of oxygen, which the fish and other microorganisms may need in the waterways. You're also leading to soil erosion, and soil erosion because you're breaking up the soil integrity and the soil is not being held together by the roots of the plants. And that again is a form of biodiversity loss, or can lead to biodiversity loss because the soil erosion is a major habitat for many organisms, and that's habitat disruption. The practice of monocropping is when you, like I said before in a previous video, this is when you plant a single crop in the field. Again, it increases profits because it is very efficient. However, it leads to soil degradation. Because you're taking away the same nutrients every single year, you can lead to increased pest populations because the pests get used to, like, there may be organisms that live, these are soybeans, for example. There may be organisms that exclusively feed on soybeans. If you keep planting it over and over, you will definitely have an established population that you're going to need to use more pesticides. Because you are taking the same nutrients away from the soil, you're going to need to increase the amount of fertilizer that is used. So with monocropping, it is efficient because you're reducing the labor costs. You are increasing the profits as a result because you are streamlining the entire process. It is leading to soil erosion because you do have bare soil during the harvest time and between harvesting and planting the next season. And that can lead to biodiversity loss because you have habitat disruption or habitat destruction. The soil is a major habitat for many organisms, especially a lot of bacteria, fungus, and other organisms. You are decreasing the amount of predators because there's going to be a disruption in the trophic relationships, because when you only have one crop, you're really minimizing the biodiversity. And if there's only one type of insect, there's only maybe one or two predators that may feed on that insect. So every other predator may migrate to a different area. And again, that will lead to biodiversity loss because when you decrease the amount of predators you have, you may have to use more pesticides. And also, just predators is reducing the amount of organisms that are present, period. When you increase the amount of fertilizer, that is done because you're taking the same nutrients away from the soil every single season. And again, that is leading to biodiversity loss because of the soil degradation, which is, again, habitat disruption as well. Now, when we use genetically modified organisms, that's, again, where we modify the DNA to alter the proteins that are produced. And one example is BT corn. So they've taken bacteria from they've taken the DNA from bacteria that live in the soil, naturally occurring bacteria. They've implanted that into corn crops, which make them less susceptible to a form of caterpillar, basically. I don't remember the name of it, but it's a corn borer. It looks like a worm. But it's a caterpillar that affects corn crops. So by putting these genes into the corn kernels themselves, the corn will produce these proteins that are toxic to these worms or these caterpillars. So it, again, is increasing the profits. But unfortunately, the effects of this is not fully known. So with genetically modified organism, when you have the same pests over and over, they have an abundant food source. And you use the GMOs and it's going to increase the survival because they're going to be pest resistant. And that can lead to an increase in profit because you get a higher yield. However, it will decrease the amount of insects that are present because there's less available food. And that in and of itself is a form of biodiversity loss because it can lead to a trophic cascade. Also, we don't really know because this process has only been around, BT corn especially, has only been around for around 30 years, maybe more, but not very long enough to know what the overall impact is environmentally and on our own bodies. We also have to use fertilizer, and fertilizer is done because we have to add the synthetic ammonium nitrate. And that's the formula for ammonium nitrate. You should know ammonia or ammonium. You should know nitrate. When you say ammonium nitrate, guess what? Put them together. Again, this will increase productivity just like all of the other practices, but will lead to soil degradation. And whenever you have runoff, it can lead to eutrophication and hypoxia. And it can lead to climate change because you're impacting the nitrogen cycle, and you're also in the nitrogen cycle can release nitrous oxide as a part of the denitrification process. Go back, watch the video if you need to from Unit 1. But one of the gases that's produced in the denitrification process is nitrous oxide, N2O, and more nitrogen in the soil means more nitrous oxide in the atmosphere. Now, when we use fertilizers, we're doing that to increase growth because you're using nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK. Those are the three limiting nutrients. This is helping to increase profits because it's easy to transport, it's easy to apply, so the amount of labor is really reduced. There can be leaching because not all of it is going to be absorbed, and whatever is not absorbed is water soluble and it can easily wash away, which leads to biodiversity loss because of the whole process of runoff, eutrophication, and hypoxia. And you're also using a lot of fossil fuels because of the energy requirements, not only to manufacture these fertilizers, but also to deliver and apply these fertilizers. It takes a lot of energy. And again, that is leading to biodiversity loss because of the actions of climate change from these greenhouse gases. Okay, a lot of information. Please respond to this check for understanding. And now let's practice our free response. I would like you to describe an environmental drawback to synthetic fertilizer use. I hope that this video was informative. I thank you for your attention, and I will see you soon.